You're listening to Finding Fortitude, a podcast that aims to help former athletes take good care of their minds and bodies through sustainable, evidence-based health habits. I'm your host, Dr. Tori Williams, a physical therapist, coach, and fellow former athlete who is ready to be part of the change in healthcare and who is on a mission to learn and share about all things health and well-being so that you can be equipped with the knowledge and tools to live your best life. As a reminder, nothing shared on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Let's get started. All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Finding Fortitude. This is the last episode of season 2, so I thought we would make it a fun one and bring back a special guest who I have had on the podcast here before. He is also a physical therapist, and the last time I interviewed him, he was my fiance, but now he is my husband. So in this episode, I thought we'd give you a little life update, because a lot has changed since the last time I interviewed him over the last year and a half or so. And we'll also spend some time diving into some various PT and fitness topics, where we might drop some hot takes. I don't know. We'll see. So with that said, welcome back to the podcast, Joe, my husband.
Thanks for having me again, Tor. Appreciate it.
Last time I basically dragged you onto the podcast, and now, believe it or not, I think you might actually be excited to be here.
Yeah, I would say I'm a little more excited than I was last time.
Yeah.
Getting a little more comfortable in front of a camera and a mic. So yeah, thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Joe and I got married last year, and we actually already celebrated our 1-year anniversary. So before we get into more recent life updates, I thought it would be fun to do a little rewind and recap of our wedding and our first year and a half of marriage. So we got married just outside of Yosemite National Park last May 2024. And anyone that knows me knows that Yosemite is one of my all-time favorite places. We did a private vow reading with our photographer in Yosemite in the valley the day before the wedding, and then had a small intimate ceremony and reception at a private lodge in Groveland, which is about 20-minute drive away from the entrance of Yosemite. So I know a lot of people say that their wedding is like, the best day of their lives, and I won't say I didn't believe it, but it was really rang true. It was the best day ever. It's just so special having all of your close family and close friends in one place to celebrate you. So, Joe, I'm curious, what was your favorite part of our wedding?
I mean, I think the whole day was pretty fabulous. I'll give a little bit of background, like why it's so special. Not just because it's one of the most beautiful places on the earth, in my opinion, but I did propose to you at the top of Vernal Falls nearly, a couple years before. So I think that's what made it really special of coming back and getting to celebrate our wedding there. So having all of our friends there in one place was more than I even imagined. Like I knew it was going to be great, but until you really experience it and feel it, like it was something really special. So thanks to everybody who came, and for even those who didn't come, we were still thinking about you. But I think, let's see, there's different parts. I thought the whole like morning of and getting prepped was in some ways stressful. We were trying to make sure everything was going right, and we didn't have a day of coordinator or any planner that helped us with that.
Shout out Kim, my mom.
And
my aunt.
My mother-in-law was our day of coordinator. So thank you guys so much for helping. But I think getting to the ceremony, we finally got to drop everything of the planning, and we were all dressed. It was really fun to get to take some pictures with my boys and my best men. I had one of my best friends, and then my brother has 2 co-best men there, and all my groomsmen, and getting to share that moment right before we tied the knot was really special to me.
We did what is it called? Like not a first look, but a first touch, where like we didn't see each other, but we were kind of around the corner and got to hold hands and take a picture, which those pictures are really cute. Joe's a little
Yeah,
emotional.
I was gonna lead right into that. That was probably the first big moment of the night was or day was getting that first touch. Like backtrack to the day before, we did do our vow reading, so we got a little bit of the emotion out from reading the vows.
Yeah,
So
that was helpful.
reading the vows during the ceremony was not quite as emotional, but the vow reading before was super special to me. The first touch was very memorable and really emotional, and I just could not wait to see what you looked like in your gown. And coming into the ceremony, seeing you walk down the aisle, oh my gosh, you were beautiful. You still are, but that dress looks so good on you.
It was very sparkly.
Yeah.
It was very on brand for me. It was kind of like a blush undertone, which I honestly did not think I would go with blush at all. Like that's not at all what I was thinking, but yeah, anyways, loved my dress. I still need to get it cleaned and put in a preserved box
Hey, the
someday.
marks are the
Oh
memories,
my
though.
God. It got a huge rip in it, and I still don't know when exactly it happened. I think it happened when we were after the ceremony, like walking up afterwards to the reception, because I remember me stepping on my dress a couple times, you stepping on it a couple times, and we were like walking up a hill like on the way out, and I just like I had my flowers and I had your hand and and like I couldn't pick up my dress as I was walking. So I think that's probably when it happened because we stopped to take pictures and all of a sudden we saw this huge rip in the tulle in the back, which like luckily you couldn't really see because it was, relatively transparent, and like of course my photographer just put a little tie in it and said we'll deal with it later, keep going, and I forgot all about it the rest of the night because it was fantastic. But yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, like a couple more memorable. I think our first dance was amazing. It very memorable in that we had been planning this and going to a dance instructor to
Yeah.
get lessons, and we spent what 10 visits with this individual and learning a choreographed dance that was split between three different songs and three different styles of dancing, moving from slow dancing ballroom style all the way to country swing.
Hmm.
So there was a big build up to making sure we did it right. And fast forward, I don't think anybody noticed how where
Mistakes we made.
it ended up looking really good, but we could tell where we had some errors. Starting
You're
off,
perfectionist. Well, my perfectionism,
yeah.
I could tell. But
Well, just like from the training and the practice, I had been trying to work on my ability to lead, and Tori was working on her ability to
not lead.
not lead and let me lead. And we get up there, and we had never practiced this dance with somebody else cueing the music. So
Yeah.
we had discussed this cueing of the music with the DJ pretty much the day of. And so as we come out and we're getting prepped to dance, he cues the music a little bit later than we practiced at home. And nervous me, I'm just getting ready to go. And how our dance started was actually waiting 2 counts after the music started in order to begin moving. And I started moving as soon as the song started. So we started off 2 counts ahead and we made it work. We ended up catching up to where we were supposed to be, and I don't think anybody really noticed, and we pulled it off. And just a very exhilarating time, a lot of nerves going through my mind and body all at once. And so I had a lot of weight lifted when we finished the dance, to be honest.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
very memorable. Loved that experience. The whole learning lessons and getting to perform with you was awesome.
Yeah. We had fun. We had fun with it, but it was very nerve like wracking. I remember being like excited, and I remember looking over at you and you being like sweating bullets, like you were so nervous. And I'm like, "Oh, you know what? It'll be memorable
It
either
was a little
way."
hot out, so I'm gonna blame.
Okay. Sure.
And then moving through the whole dinner and just getting to dance the night away, I think our DJ crushed
No,
it.
we have a great DJ.
So
Yeah.
that was the whole day is memorable, but I think the after party, the dancing afterwards, the first dance, our ceremony, and seeing you walk down the aisle, and then the moments beforehand were some of my biggest memorable moments.
Yeah, those are good ones. Those are good ones. Yeah, I think overall, like just the roller coaster of emotions, like it really does take you through everything, like from me feeling like anxious and nervous to feeling like excited and antsy and feeling stressed and feeling overwhelmed and like feeling so much love that all of your, almost all of your favorite people are there and all there for you. And it was such a cool moment that like we got to share that was so genuinely us. And we had some fun touches around the wedding of like disco balls and what do they call it? What would we call it? Porta party?
We had a porta party. We had disco balls in our outhouses that were the bathrooms for the guests, and
That was a hit.
try to
Yeah.
make it a little more fun to go and do your thing.
Yes. But honestly, like just such a big release for me because we had been planning for so long. And like that became my new personality was like wedding planning. And as much as I enjoyed like a lot of it, like I finally got to a point where it's just like releasing stress. Like I needed like that whole weekend to just like let go of all of the tension and like the cortisol was just like leaving my body over the next few days and I was just exhausted but like in the best way like it was an amazing time and of course it goes by way too fast
Yeah.
way too fast.
You don't need to sugarcoat anything. You did plan most of it. Just an FYI. But I helped in my own pieces.
Yeah, you
I
did.
found the DJ.
No, you did. And honestly, you did help. It's just like, it was my vision and I had a lot of like specifics of things that I wanted to get done but I appreciate your help. You did a good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the wedding. But another thing that I'm curious about is if you have since then, because that's been a year and a half. Do you have any favorite memories or moments from our first year and a half of marriage?
Yeah, I mean, we got to celebrate our first anniversary, which was awesome. We went to Bodega Bay and spent some time in a tree house. That was a very memorable first year moment for me. Since we've also done a trip to the Rocky Mountain National Park,
Yes.
which is a blast. As you know us, we love getting outside and enjoying the national parks. Those were two of the more recent trips. And then I think we'll get into later, but starting to move into the next phases of our life of actually getting into a home, which has been big for having some space for the dogs and just feeling like we have a place to settle and have our own space and not have to worry about apartment neighbors or people on the other wall from us. I think those were some of the biggest ones for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I also really enjoyed the same year that we got married. I turned 30, and we took a trip to Monterey and Big Sur, and that was so pretty. Yeah, I think any trips we take where outdoors are kind of the central focus are really fun, and I think that's my favorite thing to do with you is travel and do outdoor things and hike. So, and also we hiked Half Dome.
Yes.
We hiked Half Dome, and that was probably one of the most exhausting and terrifying things I've ever done. Because the cables on the way up are very scary, but I feel like that's like a whole podcast in and of itself. But we loved that. That was very fun, and we were really grateful to be able to get the permits to climb the cables part of Half Dome. Because we first we were gonna try to do it for our honeymoon, and then we were like so glad that we didn't actually do that because we were so tired after the wedding that like it worked out much better. So we got to come back and do it later that October. So yeah, lots of fun stuff in our first year of marriage. So, okay, one other fun question that I have for you is there anything that has surprised you about marriage?
I think that's a good question. I don't know if anything's really caught me by surprise. Um, I think it's been a smooth transition from what was it, 7 years of dating,
Eight.
8 years of dating before we got married.
Yeah, because it's almost been 10.
So we've been, yeah. So from 8 years of dating and then living together for quite a while. I don't think there was a lot of change necessarily.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think more change for Tori having to deal with all the name change situation.
Well, yeah, for sure.
So I think it's more of next phases of life of trying to like conjoin our finances and figure out how we're going to continue to grow and work together when we are busy and working, and how do we stay engaged with each other and keep our relationship, for lack of better terms, fresh
Mhm.
and enjoyable, and still having intimate time. So I don't think it was a big surprise. I think that through our years, we've been working through a lot of these things of trying to stay engaged and
Yeah.
keep things fun and interesting while life gets busy and life starts lifing. So no real big surprises yet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the big, and it's not even really a surprise, but it's just like that not much has changed. Like,
Yeah.
you think like when you're younger, like getting married is like this big deal and it's like this big commitment. And it's like, well, we already made a commitment to each other a long time ago. And so like getting married was like the official thing, but it wasn't, nothing really has at its core changed for us in our marriage other than having that really special moment to kind of reflect on the last like 8 years of being together and like what it means for us to continue to choose each other moving forward. So I think that was like the biggest thing, but no real aha moments since being married. We're kind of doing the same old thing. Okay, next question is a lot of people ask me, and I don't know, maybe they ask you this too when they find out your wife is a PT, but certainly when people find out that my husband is also a PT, they always ask me like, "Oh, what's that like? Do you like that? What are your thoughts on that? Any pros or cons to being married to another physical therapist?"
Yeah, I think in general it's a pro. Fun little fact my brother shared with me one time is that PTs, the profession of PTs, is one of the more common professions to have a husband and wife or partner and partner combo.
Hmm, that
So
is interesting.
yeah, I think our natural caring ability and drive for like good health habits are things that drove us together in the first place. So it kind of makes sense. In regards to pros, I think there's always something to talk about. I can always pick your brain about my patients or just the profession. I mean, early on, becoming a physical therapist, I graduated after you, so I got to learn a lot from you, and you got to drive me in the right direction of like, who do I follow? Who do you learn from? And just having good critical thinking questions and discussion. Because as in the health field, I think being able to upgrade your systems and your treatments and your critical thinking skills is super important. And without having somebody that you can have discussions with all the time, it becomes difficult if you don't have that built into your job or mentorship.
Sure.
So I think in that way, we've been able to bounce ideas off each other or discuss things and just kind of learn from each other. So that's been a big pro for me.
Hmm.
I think in regards to cons, I mean, sometimes I get tired of thinking and talking about physical therapy. So I think there's some times where I come home and I want to talk about some patients, and you probably don't want to think about it at all. And same thing happens vice versa. You've got some complicated patients or just interesting stories in general that you want to talk about or ask questions. So sometimes I just want to turn my PT brain off, to be honest.
Hmm.
So we've started to find ways to communicate that, like, is it okay to ask about patients, etc. But sometimes there is too much PT. But
Absolutely.
I would say more pros and cons. I think that your personality, being a healthcare provider and a physical therapist, is something that really draws me to you, and I do enjoy our conversations of being able to talk about the body, being able to understand and talk the same language in a lot of our conversations. So
Yeah.
I'd say more pros than cons for sure.
Yeah, I would agree that the main con is that like I just sometimes just don't want to hear about PC or patients anymore. Even if it's an interesting case, like I just sometimes I get home and I'm like, please don't tell me about another patient. I've been talking about or talking to patients all day. And not that we don't love what we do. It's just like sometimes you come home and you just want to turn off your work brain and you want to be more dimensional than just a PT. So we've worked on that for sure. And like, I think it's important that we also have hobbies and we have other things that we enjoy to do together other than just having work in common. I think that's important. But otherwise, no, I think it's a major pro. I mean, you more recently, We're both PTs. We both know how to manage certain aches, injuries, etc. However, just because you know how to manage it doesn't mean you're always the best patient. And so, I had asked his opinion on some things that I've experienced before, but I never really actually sat down and had him assess and give me a plan, etc. And more recently, I finally got fed up with certain issues I was dealing with and was like, all right, let's sit down. And he actually, you have given me an actual plan, and each week we're checking in and he's actually treating me. So I will say that's a major plus. Um, and just accountability more than anything and making sure that I do what I'm supposed to do. So, that's been interesting. And then also yeah, I enjoy a good neck massage here and there because your girl has chronic neck issues. So it's nice to have the occasional hands-on therapy from someone who knows the body and knows what feels good. So yeah, that's definitely a major plus. Okay, so let's do some other life updates because a lot has happened more recently. So, how else has life changed since the last time? You kind of alluded to it a little bit in regards to housing, but what else has changed in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, as of very, very recently, there was a lot that happened in the matter of 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up looking for a house and finding a house. So that was like big one
To rent.
to
Yep.
rent. I actually got a new job. So I am now working at Lacoste Physical Therapy and Performance based out of East Sac. And this one
Sacramento.
was, yeah, East Sacramento. And this one was a big change for me because I had been at my previous job for 3 years and I felt, for lack of better terms, comfortable, but maybe too comfortable. And this new clinic treats a lot of athletes from youth to older, middle age. And I knew the population that I would be seeing was ideal for me, but change can be very hard for me sometimes. So, with a little encouragement from you and some other friends, I continue to talk with my current boss, Kim, and just kind of dive into what that might look like. And eventually, I decided to take a leap, and it was probably the best decision I've made in a long time outside of marrying you.
Oh my gosh, stop.
Um, but yeah, the change has been tremendous. So in the matter of 3 weeks, I transitioned jobs, getting onboarded to a new cash pay clinic where treatment styles, evaluation styles is a little bit different, more one-on-one based compared to previous clinics that I've worked with where I'm seeing patients for half the time and an aide will take them for the other half of the time. So a lot of learning and onboarding. After my first week of the new job, we moved. And after 1 week of moving, we traveled to Colorado,
Mhm.
where we got to see one of your best friends get married,
Yep.
and then we got to spend a week in the national park. So
Yes.
that was the three. It was a 3 crazy weeks for me and us, I think.
Yeah,
So
definitely. A lot of change all at once.
a lot of change at once, and thank
Moving is just a pain in the ass. God.
thank you, friends that have helped. We
Yes.
appreciate you guys. So couldn't have done it without you, or we would be a lot more stressed without you, at least.
And then more recently,
Yeah. So I had my car go out.
R.I.P. Alice.
Yeah, she's a
It's
old
been a good
Ford
ride.
Focus, about 11 years old, going close to 200,000 miles, and it's had some somewhat minor issues come up, but I was hoping to push it a little bit further so that I could get a new car on my own time, and something went out in the transmission. So I decided that the fix was going to be, it was probably going to be worth more than what the car was.
Oh yeah.
So it was time to go shopping.
All of a sudden, which is never fun, especially right now.
Yeah, we could it could have been more on our own time.
But at the same time, it's been very nice to have a trustworthy car that I'm not worried
Yes.
about getting a call because it'd been a few years of in and out of the shop of like various things going on. Like again, nothing major until this more recent thing, but like just they were progressively getting more and more expensive. So
Yeah,
it's
$400
time.
fix here, $500
Yeah.
fix there.
Yeah, it was time. It was
Yeah,
time to upgrade.
yeah.
So, RIP Alice, and welcome to the family, Suki.
Suki, yes, a 2025 Subaru Impreza. I absolutely love. I've been
Yes.
wanting a Subaru for a while, so I can have some all-wheel drive, take it up to the snow whenever I want. So, yes, Suki is a new part of our family, and she's riding well.
Subi Gang. We are officially part of the Subi Gang. Okay. I asked Instagram if anybody had questions for us for this podcast. And I did get a couple of responses. So we'll go through those questions first. So the first question is, how do you balance working out when you're tired after a long or stressful work day versus giving yourself grace and resting when you need it? In other words, how do you decide if working out or resting is best for you when you feel stressed or tired?
Fantastic question.
Yeah.
So, thank you for asking this. So, I think it's super important to address that most, or if not all of our listeners, because I'm sure everybody out there has experienced this one time or another. So, I guess I should start by saying, like, for me, I recognize how important movement is for my physical and mental health. So, more times than not, it tends to fill my cup a little bit more in a good way, rather than draining me further when I'm feeling stressed. But creating motivation when I'm stressed can be really, really difficult. So, for me, I've tried to like meet in the middle somewhere, whether if I'm highly stressed and I don't want to work out, is there some way I can add like a little movement snack? That might be as little as just going for a little walk with the dogs or without the dogs. Um, Thankfully, with my new job, I have exercise equipment. So as of late, my biggest thing has been, can I get 15 to 20 minutes of doing something during my lunch break? Trying to turn off my work brain, but just get in and focus on doing something that moves my body in ways that feel good. Some days it's doing cat cow for a minute and child's pose for a minute, stretching my hips out and just laying down for a second. Other days I can get in a pretty good workout, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. But yeah, again, when it's a really stressful day, I usually try to find a way to tell myself that, hey, it's you're gonna feel better if you do something. And walking's usually pretty easy for me. I love taking my dogs out, so that's another motivator. It's not just for me, it's for them. Or just putting my headphones in and going for a little something where I can distract and turn off my brain from whatever else is going on. Um, I'd recommend trying something like that because more times than not, movement's gonna make you feel a little bit better, especially if movement and exercise is a huge part of your lifestyle. With that said, if I'm really overloaded, I think over time and I'm continuing to learn more about myself, but sometimes I do just need to take a damn break. I will usually assess my days before and whether I'm gonna take that break or not, because if it's been 2 or 3 days where I haven't done a single thing, I'm going to feel worse the next day if I don't do even a little bit of something.
Hmm.
And not to get too much in the weeds of things, but then it comes down to like how can you manage stress a little bit better to allow yourself to set your boundaries and prioritize movement for you if that is something that you really want to prioritize. Because ultimately, if you are able to fit it in more often than not, whether it's 3 days, whether it's 4 days a week, but more consistently than going 4 to 7 days without it, you're going to tend to feel better in the long term. And that stress will likely be a little bit more managed as well.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I think like it also depends on like how modifiable like your exercise session is. Like if we're talking about like, okay, I can either go to a group fitness class or not. I can either go to my CrossFit class or not. Like I think it depends on how confident you feel being like, hey, I'm just gonna go and like feel it out and take it easy and like listen to my body, etc. versus like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be influenced by maybe like the competition of the other people in the class, or like I'm in such a big group setting that like I can't really modify things as well, then maybe that's a different answer. But I think more often than not, getting yourself there to the gym or wherever you exercise is the hardest part. And then usually once you get started, you're like, ah, shit, this feels good. Like I want to keep going. At least that's the case for me. Like I generally get there and I'm like, oh yeah, I needed this. However, again, I do think this is like a really important nuance. You're not always going to get it right. Like some days you are going to skip when you feel like you probably should have, and other days you're going to start working out and being like, I still feel like crap. And I think that's okay. Some of the things that I take into consideration are looking at the other factors that influence both my energy, but also just my health and my injury risk. So if I'm stressed and I'm tired, I'm like, okay, have I slept? Like, I'm not going to go push myself to work out if I'm sleep deprived the last few days, or if I have not eaten appropriately that day and like haven't gotten enough calories. Like, those are things for me in my buckets that I'm looking at to make sure that, like, if I am not well fed and I'm not well slept and I'm stressed, those are three negative things that like it may not benefit me to like push in a hard workout that day. But like Joe said, like maybe you go and you do some stretches. Maybe you get on a stationary bicycle for a little bit. Maybe you go for a walk. Like maybe you do something gentle, just to get yourself moving and to get some of those endorphins. But ultimately you have to ask yourself that question, and you are the ultimate holder of wisdom. And it's very hard to always be spot on and make that right decision because there are other factors and other things that are going to be pulling you. But a big question I ask myself is this workout going to benefit me more than going home and getting some good sleep? And if the answer is no, then I'm going home. I'm gonna go get some good sleep. So I think it, as always, it depends. It's nuanced, but I think only you can answer that question honestly and choose the best thing for you.
Yeah, I think those are three excellent things to check in with yourself. The sleep and nutrition are super important for me. I know if I haven't eaten, then that's probably a priority. But I guess I'd like to elaborate too is do you feel like you're somebody who is an all or nothing? Like, do you feel like going to the gym and getting a really hard workout is the only way to go? Um, it doesn't always have to be perfect, and it doesn't always have to be 100% effort every time. But yeah, like she said, a little trial and error of knowing your body and knowing when and what's right for you. But those are some good things to check off of how's my sleep going, how's my nutrition, how's my fatigue that day, physically and mentally, and finding what those feelings are, what those check boxes look like in order to determine how you proceed. Are you gonna go for a weight workout? Are you going to go for a walk? Are you going to do a stretch? Are you going to find something else that works for you? Um, but definitely, you're going to know your body best in these situations.
Yeah, and that is actually why I actually have a freebie on this called the pre-workout self-evaluation. It lists some of those factors that kind of helps you come up with a checklist of like, is this workout a good idea for me? Yes or no? And then also more nuanced, like, can I modify this and continue, or is there some form of movement that would be good for me, even if it's not like the ideal planned workout that you were going to do? So I will link that in the show notes if you want to download that. It's completely free and it's meant for that purpose so that you can make better decisions for you moving forward. Okay, next question that was asked by a lovely listener and friend of ours. They wanted to know what is a clinical belief or practice that you, Joe and I, differ with, and what's something you agree with. And we briefly discussed this before recording because, quite honestly, we agree on a lot more than we disagree with. Um, but anything that first comes to mind for you, Joe, about something that we disagree with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we differ on is mostly our treatment styles.
Yeah.
I think that comes a lot from like how we were taught in school. And so, I mean, generally we like to think we're evidence-based and try to stay updated with our narratives and continue to learn and grow. So anything that does pop up, we try to maybe have a discussion about or teach each other or learn from each other in different ways. And we tend to be pretty open when we do have devil's advocate questions or ways of challenging our belief systems.
Yeah.
Something that popped up recently was as I was trying to treat you, I continued to get the effect of feeling a certain muscle group. And I think that's one thing that we may differ on is it important or critical for someone to feel an area in order to get the necessary benefits out of that?
While they're exercising. So like, yeah, like for example, we were doing a hip hinge movement and you were asking me if I felt it in my glutes. And like on one side, I felt it a little bit more in my glutes than the other, like as I was working, like the burning feeling or the, the activation of that muscle. And then we kind of got into a discussion because I asked, well, do I have to feel that muscle working for it to be working? And like scientifically, the answer is no. But there is some benefit to, maybe the body awareness or mind muscle connection when it comes to exercise. So we were kind of talking about that. And I think that's where, again, it's not as much as, disagreeing, but maybe just like discussion about what these commonly believed things actually mean and like whether it's actually necessary for that to be the case in order to benefit from exercise.
I think for a lot of things in physical therapy, there's nuance in everything.
Yes.
So it's hard to say with many things, is it black and white? And I think there's a lot of gray area in a lot of what we do. When we dove into the hinging exercise, I look at things like interlimb and intralimb compensations. And when we're performing a muscle action or a joint action or a movement, if I'm trying to target a specific tissue, that might be a little bit more relevant for me when I'm treating an individual if they're feeling an area that I want to have adaptations towards. If there's an individual who's very low trained and they have a lot of what we call low hanging fruit of things that can be addressed, it may not be as important because just getting them to move again and load their body again, they're going to find a lot of benefits from that. But I think in regards to the sensations of an area being felt, I think it can be really helpful when I'm trying to get a very specific adaptation in someone's body or movement pattern.
Yeah, I just don't know that we need to feel a muscle in order for it to be adapting. And that's the argument is that like I just don't know because sometimes you can feel a muscle working, but like it's not adapting. Like you can do really high reps, low load stuff and feel a burn and like not necessarily get the adaptation you're looking for. So I think that's kind of where which may be a hot take for some people listening. They're like, "What? I didn't realize that. I thought when it burns, it's really working." And that it is working, but a lot of times that burn is more of so the metabolic changes that are happening in the muscle and the oxygenation and that doesn't always necessarily lead to adaptation. Although it certainly can, of course. And again, that's where we get into the nuance of like does it matter? And I think my argument was like, well, maybe I don't need to feel it. We just can trust that it's doing its thing.
Yeah, I think it's valid questions, and I don't have X-ray vision to really see like if we're getting the right movements in very specific parts of the body all the time. So asking an individual what they're feeling, it can be
Yeah,
helpful for me.
sure.
I then have this open-ended question of like if one individual feels it, or let's say same individual feels it this much on one side, but a lot less on the other side, could those sensations indicate like the level of adaptation? If an individual feels it more, would they have greater adaptations than if they were to be performing it in a way that they were not feeling it as much?
I think according to if you're asking like evidence base, like there have been some studies on that where like there's not a big difference in like whether someone is feeling something, whether they actually had adaptations or not. I've read of at least the one or two where they looked at that and it didn't really matter all that much. Now, again, it's in trained individuals and like the population you're studying is going to matter. So like sometimes again, I think it depends. Like I don't think it's a bad thing to be looking at that, but I just don't think we should judge our exercise prescription based on whether someone feels it in their muscle. I think we should be looking at the biomechanics and how they're loaded and like modifying that movement, which you even did in that moment. You said, okay, well, I want you to bend your knee a little bit more and bring your hip back. And like you gave me some biomechanics cues to help me make sure that I was loading that area more so than another area. And I think to me, that's more important at the end of the day. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, we're not going to do that exercise if someone didn't feel it there necessarily. Um, I think it would just be something that I kept in mind. And if there's something that if they find meaning in like really feeling it in a certain area, and that's important to them as the patient, then maybe I would try to find a different exercise. But like in terms of adaptation, I wouldn't be quick to jump to something new, um, just because someone maybe didn't feel it as strongly in that area. That's just me though.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's something we disagree on. And that's actually just funny that she asked that because that's something that's come up more recently. Because I think in the last time I had you on, we discussed that of like, is there anything we disagree on? And we're like, it's kind of not really. Like we agree on most things, or at least can have a discussion about
Yeah.
most things.
Given as I spoke on earlier, I've learned a lot of good mentors or therapists that you learn from. So I learned
Right.
from a lot of the same individuals. Maybe this is our little echo chamber of
Sure.
PT. But yeah, I think I like the way you think. And it is fun to discuss things and have little arguments that
Yeah.
get to dive into some of the nuance of things, and it challenges the ways we think, which is great.
I think overall, I've just learned to be very skeptical. You always have to go in with a level of skepticism and kind of dive into the nuance and like not hold on to your beliefs too tightly because things change all the time. And we're constantly needing to update, our narratives and what we're doing. So, and questioning that, which can be very uncomfortable because it doesn't give you all the confidence in the world all the time. Okay. What were you going to say?
In agreements, like yeah, there's a lot that we could dive into with physical therapy, but I think in general we both agree that treating the whole person, mind and body, and being very present and supportive for each individual is really key in both of our rehabs.
Yeah.
So just being a good open ear for our patients
Yeah.
and making sure that they know that they're heard, and we're guiding them in a treatment that is centered around them and
Yeah.
their lifestyle. And
Yeah, and something we talked about earlier too is that like I tend to look big picture at like someone's overall general fitness levels and the other things impacting their life. And like if someone's coming walking into the clinic with back pain, but they have high life stress and they're not sleeping well and their nutrition has fluctuated because they're trying to lose weight. Like, I'm usually not being like, okay, you need this ultra specific core exercise and these like postural modifications to improve your back pain. Like, not that those might not be helpful, but you have to then address the overall environment in which that person lives in because we know the environment you live in and those other factors are also going to impact your pain. And long term, those are going to be bigger rocks that need to be addressed. Not that we're going to be able to help everybody make these big lifestyle changes, but it is like very important to at least bring up with people and discuss how that influences their symptoms as well, particularly as like symptoms become more chronic. We know that those things can really impact your experience of pain. So, on to the next couple questions. I have two other questions, and then we're going to get into some rapid fire questions, just like some fun, like fitness and personal questions for you. So, I know you can see the outline right now. Don't peek. So, the first one is myth busting. So, what is one rehab or fitness myth that you wish people would stop believing and spreading around?
I think like the first one that comes to mind is stretching is not necessary.
Ooh, okay.
I
Tell us
think,
more.
yeah, I think each individual is different, and stretching can be right for the right person. But is it absolutely necessary for everyone? I would say not. There's times at which I still provide static stretches to my patients because it can be a way to elongate a certain area to allow for temporary mobility improvements.
And symptom
And
relief.
symptom relief. Sometimes we're stretching a painful area or we're allowing for a certain joint to move a little bit better, and that might come after stretching. But I'm always following these up with active movement strategies so that we can facilitate the change that we're trying to create. But I have individuals always tell me, hey, I know I need to be stretching more. And then I ask, well, why? And what do you think you need to stretch? And often the case is that they're perfectly mobile for the activities that they need. I would say for the vast majority of people, strength training, and maybe this is my biased view, but strength training is going to be a much more importance than stretching out your calves or your quads every single day. Now, again, it's a nuanced question.
Either or, yeah.
It's not either or. There's some people that they live and die by stretching to help their hips move, and it gets them prepped for their exercise or activity that they desire. I know when I go to the gym, I still do stretches. It's something that I've been brought up on from sport early on, and it's a way for me to get my muscles moving, and it kind of helps me clear my head as I'm getting prepped to start to push my body. Do I think that I can do exercise without stretching? Absolutely. I don't think that it's that important for me, but it is something that I enjoy, and it does help me feel a little bit more prepared moving into whatever I'm gonna be doing. I would say the most important thing is if you're gonna go into movement, some sort of warm up is beneficial in order to prep your muscles and your joints to do the activity at hand. But that could be as easy as doing a exercise at a lighter weight.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on stretching yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think you ever have to stretch. I think a lot of athletes have this belief. They're like, oh, I just need to stretch more. I need to stretch more. Like I hear that a lot from former athletes and athletes. And I think it comes from this idea of like, oh, I'm feeling tight. And so I need to stretch. Or like if all I do is strength train and do my sport, like I'm gonna get really tight and I'm gonna need to stretch. And I think we could go down a bunch of rabbit holes with this, and like I'll keep it brief for the purposes of this podcast, and maybe we can go into this in a future podcast. I think it'd be a good idea to have like an entire episode on stretching. um but first of all, tightness can mean different things. A lot of times when you feel tight, your body perceives tightness, it's actually fatigue. And so sometimes the right thing to do is not necessarily to stretch. Like you can, but you don't need to. I had Dr. Emily Rausch on, and she was talking about hypermobility. Well, a lot of hypermobile folks feel really tight, but it's because their muscles are on working overtime to stabilize their joints. And so, like, what they actually need is not stretching, it's strengthening and stability. Not that stretching can't feel good and that they can't do that. But again, like Joe said, I think you can do it in conjunction with a strength training routine or with your other exercise and activity. But like, is it necessary? Do you have to stretch? No. Do I think it's a good idea to do movements that put your joints through a full range of motion, or as much range of motion as you can so that you can maintain mobility in those joints? Yes. Is that way to do that for some people stretching? Yeah. So like, I don't have anything against stretching. I just think it's probably been overhyped in the fitness world. It used to be one of the key fitness things we tracked, cardiovascular fitness and strength and endurance and then flexibility. And there's a reason that, like, we don't necessarily see that as one of the main indicators of health anymore, because there's this wide variety and flexibility based on genetics and all kinds of stuff. So, anyways, yeah, like I said, that could be probably a whole podcast by itself, but yeah, I agree. I don't think you have to stretch. I think you can and it feels good, but yeah. Um the last question before we get into rapid fire is any other like pet peeves or hot takes or anything that has been on your mind lately, or anything you need to get off your chest in the PT and fitness world?
Um, yeah, I don't have like a lot of hot takes, I would say, but like a pet peeve of mine is particularly with clinicians thinking that certain exercises are bad for you. I guess one belief of mine is that there's no one bad exercise. And I think that there's movement variability and adaptability for all of us. It may be more important of how you dose each movement or exercise, how quickly you're progressing or changing or doing a certain thing. And to get a little bit more specific, when someone says deadlifting is bad for your back, um, no, it's not. Do deadlifts. You do it all the time. You should get that stronger. So,
And there is no age limit for deadlifts either. God, there's a podcast clip going around that has been going around for the last year that's like, yeah, well, after the age of 60, you really shouldn't be doing anything heavy. And it's like, that is not true. There's no age limit. There's no age limit. There are some wild narratives out there about what you should and shouldn't do with your body. Sorry, I interrupted, but that
yeah,
was.
adaptability is for everybody.
So you adapt until the day you die.
Things do move slower. That is known that tissues change a little bit as we age, and pliability, elasticity of our tissues does change, but that does not mean that our body stops adapting to things. We look at the SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. If you continue to apply enough stimulus to your body, i.e., deadlift lightweight many times over and over, it will get better over time.
And tissues adapt.
Yeah, and that's where physical therapists like us play a key role in making sure that you're choosing the right way, performing it with the right form so that you can minimize risk. Um, Injury risk, there's always some level of risk of injury, and we cannot change that. We can minimize risk, and that's where we try to choose safe weights, progress at a safe rate. But deadlifting is not bad for your back. There's not one exercise that's inherently bad for you. It's just about choosing the right variation, minimizing risk through potentially improved form, and choosing the right intensity at which you do it is the big key factors for any and all movements.
The dosage makes the poison. And knowing where you're at now and not jumping from 0 to 100 is like way more important for injury risk than anything else. Okay. Let's get into some light and fun rapid fire questions. Some of these are PT and rehab or fitness related, and some are just regular life stuff. So Joe has not seen these. So this is we're just gonna go through this list and see what you think. Are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Okay. So here we go. Rapid fire. Morning or evening workouts?
Preferably morning. My schedule doesn't allow that right now, but mornings for me.
Okay. Pre-workout or coffee before workouts?
I've been a big coffee drinker lately, but nothing gets me more than a nice pre-workout scoop that feels like you're on seven cups of espresso.
You have not had pre-workout lately that
No,
I'm aware of.
no, but I like it more.
Okay, got it.
I just,
Okay.
as I'm an evening workout,
Yeah.
as I work out in the evening, having a scoop of pre-workout or coffee after or before my workout just doesn't, like, I can't sleep after. So
Yeah.
as of late, I don't do either.
Yeah.
But if I do have the opportunity to work out in the morning, I love a good pre-workout.
Okay, got it. Sorry, that was not very rapid of us. Okay, here we go. Favorite pre-workout snack?
Protein bar,
Okay. Deadlifts or squats?
deadlifts,
Yeah, baby, deadlift party. Favorite stretch to do before or after workouts?
hip flexor stretch with an overhead reach.
Nice. Favorite source of protein?
I like my whey iso protein powder.
Okay. Go to bed early or sleep in?
Ooh, go to bed early.
Yeah. Meditate or go for a walk?
Meditation's really good for me, but I'd prefer to go for a walk.
Naps or no naps?
I'm not typically a nap person, but I've found a lot of benefit in later years, but no naps.
Okay. Favorite sport to play?
Golf,
Beach or mountains?
mountains,
Favorite season?
fall,
Yeah, that's my man. That's the right answer. That's the correct answer. Fall. And favorite sport to watch?
baseball.
Okay. Last one. If you weren't a PT, what career would you be in right now?
Hmm. I would be in some sort of entertainment. I would love to be a DJ or a like light and sound producer for events.
Love that. Cool. All right. So wrapping up here, but I am curious if there's anything in particular you are excited about in coming up in the next year, either personally or professionally or both?
Um, I think I've been so focused on my career right now and with this change of jobs that I've been really focused on getting up to speed and par with the ability to communicate with my clients in a cash-based service with one-on-one. So I'm continuing to look forward and just growing in this career. I've been able to solidify my foundations and build my clinical reasoning. So I'm excited to see like how Dr. Joe looks in 6 months to a year from now because I've excelled through these first 2 months and it's only going to continue to grow. I'm really excited to see our second year anniversary and do a little bit more trips with you. So yeah, career and continuing to live in this new home with you would be my two things that I'm most excited for right now.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to whatever our next national park trip is. And then also just like having a little bit more time to dive into some other offerings that I've been cooking up for quite some time now. And really wanting to continue to do more in-person connection with folks like I've been doing with my hikes once a quarter and kind of leaning into that right now and that connection with my peeps. So all right. Well, anything else, Joe, you think people should know before we wrap up here?
No, I think we gotta catch them up with our lives, and it's been a lot more. Not that the first one wasn't fun, but this was really fun to get to spend some time with you and talk on the air. So
Yeah.
excited for next season and getting to catch you all up with what this next year has to hold.
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll have some things to talk about and catch up.
That's right. All right, y'all. Thank you so much again, Joe, for being here. This was a fun way to bookend season 2 of the podcast. I will be back for season 3. I have not decided exactly when that will be yet, but likely in 2026. I'm going to take a good few months off. Um, but I'm really looking forward to continuing to have some awesome guest interviews like I've had this season and potentially elevating the format of the podcast and finally getting to redo my intro for the podcast with my new last name because as of right now it still has Williams. So yeah, I'm excited. I will be back, I promise. It's just a matter of when. But if you're still here listening, thank you so much for being here and for being a listener of this podcast. It has been really fun to continue to watch this thing grow and to see how many of you are downloading and listening. I really, really appreciate it. And I'd love to know what topics you want to hear about in the next season, or if there's anything that, or any particular guests that you would like to see on the show. Please send me a DM or send me a message in the show notes, in the link in the show notes. I would love to hear from you. And if you've liked the show, it really means a lot to me if you leave a rating or review on wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps it continue to be bumped up and listened to by more people. And if you share an episode that you've enjoyed with a friend or somebody that you think would benefit, that also really helps. And again, I'm just truly so grateful that you're here and listening and along for the journey with me. So if you want to stay connected during the break, the best way to do that is to join my email newsletter list, which I will also have the link for down in the show notes, or to follow me on Instagram if you don't already. And I will also link Joe's socials in the show notes as well so that you can connect with him. All right, that is all for now. Thank you so much again for being here, and I will talk to you again next time. Until then, take good care of yourself.